Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
It's you and the senorita. Whoop it, blowing up the tweeter, cause it's me up in the speaker. Knocking the mama seat top down like a player. And the sound up in your ears, it is the dopest rhyme. Say I run a game like a cheater.
So something happened this past week just gone by in Orlando. Not Orlando. It was in Florida. I'm not sure exactly the city. Anyways, it happened in Florida this past week just gone by. And it was, well, it was news last week. I'm sure you've heard this story before. But the family of a 17-year-old Florida kid, young man, are outraged that he was shot and killed by a homeowner while he was robbing them. And I didn't want to get into it right when it happened because there's tons of people screaming and yelling, going, "Well, you shouldn't have been robbing the people. You deserve to get shot if you're breaking into a home." And I don't think anyone's going to argue against that. If there is an intruder in your home, I think legally within the confines of the law, at least in certain states, if you kill them, well, that's your right. Someone comes into your home, that's a big deal. Do we blame the woman for pulling the trigger? I don't. But there's another layer to this story that I found to be very interesting. Just when I was thinking about it. And it made me think back to when I was about 4 years old. I was in kindergarten or pre-K or something like that. And I'm hanging out in the yard. And I'm throwing stuff at trees, as kids do. I was like, I wonder if I can hit that tree from back here. Wonder if I can hit that tree from back here. And I found that with whatever I picked up in the yard, I was a pretty decent shot. I was whipping rocks and sticks and whatever I could find at these trees and going, the real test of my abilities and skill, though, with my 4-year-old brain at work, the real test of my abilities and skill would be, can I hit a moving target? What is a moving target? Well, I certainly don't want to hurt an animal. I don't want to throw it at a bird or something like that. Don't want to do anything like that. What's a moving target? What's a moving target? And I'm looking around the yard going, what moves? What moves? And then I lived on a street, quiet street. Cars came by. I was like, cars are moving targets. Cars are moving targets. Fantastic. And I picked up a piece of bark that I pulled off of a tree or that had fallen off of a tree. And I sat and I waited. And along comes a car. And the car comes along and I reach back. And even though I've been told not to go too close to the road, I'm still within striking distance. But, it was interesting because I had been told, do not go close to the road. So I was not really all that close to the road. I was keeping a safe distance from the road as I had been told. I had not, however, been told, don't whip pieces of wood at passing cars. So I leaned back and I threw that sucker as hard as I could at a passing car. And it hit square in the middle of the driver's side door. And I was stoked. I was like, I am a deadeye. I'm a precocious little kid. Look at me, hitting moving targets. I will be a pitcher for the Rochester Red Wings one day. Or as we affectionately called them at that time, the Dead Wings. This was during the 2 years of my life that I lived in Rochester before we moved to New York City and then ultimately England. But at the time, that was the highlight of my young life. I had hit a moving target, a car, with a piece of wood. I was unquestionably a badass. And then something interesting happened. The car slowed down. And the car stopped. And the car backed up. And the little girl down the road that I was showing off for, because, even at age 4, had figured out that there was some sort of value to showing off for girls, hadn't figured it out yet, but knew that this would pay off in the long run somehow, some way. The car slowed down and backed up, and a woman leaned out of the car. And with my hand on my 4-year-old heart, I would have told you at the time that I thought she was slowing down and coming back to congratulate me on being such a good shot. She was not. What happened next? We'll get into it shortly. Thank you for hanging out.
Let's start the show.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
I do what I want, when I want, how I want. Every day you're going and working, running that rat race at that pace and that place will leave a bad taste for anyone, everyone working day after day. So buddy, I gotta say for you, there's gotta be a better way, yeah. And you do what they told ya, company man, feel it, a mindless little soldier. How can you live like that and maintain your composure before it's begun? Your life's already freaking over, yeah. I do what I want, when I want.
So, there I was, 4 years old. I had just whipped a piece of wood at a passing car from my yard as a child. I didn't go too close to the road when I did it. I stood well back from the road because I've been told under no uncertain circumstances, don't go near the road. But I had not been told, don't throw stuff at passing cars. So when the car stopped and backed up, and a woman leaned out of the car window, and I'm standing there all puffed up with pride that I, a 4-year-old, managed to hit a moving target. Little girl from down the street, Jessica, standing next to me. I knew this looked good in front of her. Didn't know why I wanted to look good in front of girls yet, but I just knew I did. I was all stoked. I was all kinds of thrilled with the fact that this woman who was driving the car had stopped and slowed down to doubtlessly congratulate me on my aim and my innate ability as a 4-year-old. She did not stop to congratulate me. She screamed at the top of her lungs and used words that as a 4-year-old I probably shouldn't have heard, but I did. And then she said she was going to call the cops on me and that I was going to go to jail. And I went, holy freaking God. I turned to Jessica. I was like, Jessica, what am I going to do? 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 And I couldn't tell my parents. I realized in that moment that I had done something that was horrifically wrong. I had no idea that this was the wrong thing to do. Look, your parents, your teachers, authority figures in your life, they teach you all kinds of lessons. Don't go near the hot stove. Don't lie. Don't steal. Don't go near the road. At no point did my parents find it necessary to go, don't throw stuff at passing cars. It's one of those things that you don't know you have to tell a kid until it turns out that you do, I suppose. But I knew immediately that I'd done something wrong that I was going to get in trouble for, and I was going to go to jail for it, and I was going to spend the rest of my life in jail, and that was absolutely unthinkable. So I was like, Jessica, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And she was like, it's fine. The cops won't actually come. I was like, no, they're coming, and I'm going to go to jail forever, and I'll never see my parents again. And so I spent the rest of my day, it was a summer day, on vacation, hiding in my closet. Paranoid that every sound I heard was the approach of a policeman ready to ring the bell, get my mom, find me in my room and take me to jail, where I would be forever. As it turned out, I guess either the cops didn't care enough or the woman didn't care enough to report it. I don't think I did any actual damage. But I wasn't reported to the cops. I did not go to jail. But it taught me a very important lesson. Don't whip stuff at cars, which I turned over in my young mind for a little while, and that meant don't do things that could damage other people's property. Don't do things that could be dangerous. To this day, I don't think I ever told my parents this story. And if you're listening, Mom and or Dad, that happened. That was a thing. So we learn lessons, I guess, everywhere in life about the idea of right and wrong. And don't whip stuff at cars. Seems like an obvious lesson you wouldn't have to teach people. But when the family of the 17-year-old kid in Florida reacted in outrage after he was shot and killed by a homeowner during a burglary, this is what they had to say. The family of Trayvon Johnson said they were angry. They were angry he was shot and he was killed after breaking into a home. He was robbing a home a couple blocks away from where he lives in Liberty City, which is, I think if you break out the stats, a high-crime neighborhood, high-crime town. The homeowner was a 54-year-old woman. She told cops her surveillance system alerted her to the break-in. Her home had been broken into multiple times in the past, which is why she had a surveillance system and a gun. She rushed home. She confronted this kid, ended up shooting and killing him. And they said you have to look at it from every child's point of view that was raised in the hood. You have to understand, how are you going to get his money to have clothes to go to school? You have to look at it from his point of view. And a lot of people said, really? He wants money? Get a freaking job. And they have a point. They also said about the woman that shot this kid, I don't care if she has a gun license or any of that. That is way beyond the law, way beyond. He was not supposed to die like this. He was not supposed to die like this. He had a future ahead of him. He had goals. He was a very funny guy, very big on education. He loved learning. He'd been previously arrested earlier this year. Charge not disclosed. But here's the thing. Maybe instead of being outraged, maybe his family should be lamenting the fact that they never taught him the perils of breaking into other people's homes. We talk a lot on this show about right and wrong and how you know right and wrong. You know where your moral compass's true north is. But in situations where people have not been given a moral compass, not have a clear definition of right and wrong, it's a tough one. There is no easy answer to this. But I do have a suggestion. How do you deal with someone that hasn't been given a clear idea of what right and wrong is, to the point where they're breaking into homes and have been told it's okay by their parents? We'll get into it next.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. You do what we do. You do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. You do what we do. You do what we do. Well, it's a new one. Here I come again, coming again, taking it back.
So it's not easy, is it? It's not easy dealing with people that don't know the difference between right and wrong, or don't respect the difference between right and wrong. But when you look at a kid like Trayvon Johnson, 17-year-old kid shot dead in Florida when he was breaking into his home, his family said it wasn't right that he was killed. How was he supposed to get money to have clothes to go to school? You have to look at it from the child's point of view that was raised in the hood. Justification of robbing someone. This is his family's. This is his family's excuse for him after his death. And by all accounts, he was a funny guy, very big on education, loved learning. And he might have been all of those things. But you know what? He didn't have the moral guidance, the moral compass. He didn't have the definition of right and wrong when it came to, hey, robbing someone else's home is wrong. Mark Twain said the fact that man knows right from wrong proves his intellectual superiority to the other creatures, but the fact that he can do wrong proves his moral inferiority to any creatures that cannot. Man knows right and wrong, and man will do wrong consciously. But this kid had been raised in an environment where, hey, how else are you supposed to get money for clothes so you can go to school? Come on. This is what it's like to grow up in the hood. How on earth are you supposed to deal with that situation? Are you supposed to not shoot an intruder in your home? Are you supposed to ask them, hey, person who might be about to kill me for the $23 I have in my bureau? How do you think this is right? How does it get like this? How does this happen? No, you pull the trigger is what you do because you're worried about yourself, your home, your possessions, your family. You're worried about this person that is breaking into your home that might kill you. And that's understandable. If there was an intruder in my home, would I pull the trigger? Yeah, I probably would. You don't have time to stop and reason and go, but why do you think this is okay? How'd this happen to you? In those situations, that's all you can do. Sadly, it's all you can do. Your hand is forced to make a very hard decision very quickly. But in other situations where people come up to you, or you have to deal with someone in your daily life and you go, what the hell is wrong with this person? Seriously, they're just an awful, terrible human being. They have no moral center. They're willing to step on whoever the hell they have to step on to get where they're going. What is their deal? What the hell is the problem? Bear in mind, there are people in this world that are growing up with that moral center. Every child comes into this world pure and unbiased. And it doesn't take long for parents, family, environment to get their hooks into them and develop in their brain a way of thinking that says, you want money for clothes to go to school, break into someone's house and take stuff. Does that excuse any of this behavior? No, we're all responsible. I mean, at some point, a kid is. At age 17, I don't know where you become a responsible adult. I don't know. 17-year-old can do damage and kill people like an adult, can have malice of forethought like an adult. Where is the line? Where does the innocence of childhood end and the responsibility of adulthood begin? Well, that's the age-old question. You got to be 16 to have sex, 18 to have sex in other places, 21 to drink, 21 to smoke now in California, 16 to smoke in other places. Where does the responsibility of adulthood begin? We don't know. We can't put a finite number on it. It seems to be ever moving and nobody can make a decision about this. And whatever the case may be, the point is there comes a time where a child becomes an adult and becomes responsible for their decisions. But understand there are people growing up this way. And that is what blows my mind. So effed up. It's like the beggars that I used to pass going to work every single day. I'd see these adult human beings standing on the corner going, give me some money. And I'm like, bite me. I'm on my way to work a really long job. I will be gone for the next 14 hours because I am working. You want money for standing there on the street corner? Bite me. And then I'll never forget the day I saw 12, 13-year-old kids standing on the corner going, give me some money. I was like, oh, that's not good. That's not good because this is all this kid knows. This is what this kid has been taught. This kid's whole life is probably a 5-block radius, and all he has been taught so far in life is if you want money, stand on the street corner, hold out your hand, look sad, and people might give it to you. And when there's a 17-year-old kid robbing someone's home that loses their life because they didn't know necessarily that it was really, really the wrong thing to do, or they've been brought up in an environment where, like, how else are you going to get money for clothes to go to school with? Because you're into education, you better steal something from somebody else so you can show up to school looking right. What do you do in those situations? You reach down and find compassion in your heart. Look, obviously, like I said, it's a split-second decision about whether or not you're going to pull the trigger and end a kid's life because they've broken into your home. And given those circumstances, it would take an awfully, awfully cool head and maybe a foolish head to not pull the trigger. Someone invades your home, all bets are off, I think. But in other areas of your life, not life-threatening areas of your life, you're going to run across these people all the time that have no moral compass, no sense of right and wrong that you can relate to. Or worse, they know right and wrong. And for whatever reason, maybe upbringing, maybe circumstance, they believe the rules of right and wrong don't apply to them. And all you can do in those situations, and all you must do in those situations to help us evolve as a species, is recognize that these folks, as much as they aren't people you're ever going to be friends with, aren't people you ever want to spend time with, aren't people you want to be around, people that you wish were not a part of your life, people that you wish would leave you alone in the street, somebody screams at you from their car window, you don't know how that's going. You don't know how they got to that place. And it's very difficult to not have a hot head and pull the trigger. Maybe pulling the trigger in that situation is mouthing off back to them. Maybe pulling the trigger in that situation is getting into some kind of altercation, a fist fight, a verbal altercation. I don't know. But when you can, and it's not easy, and you can't always do this, when you can, when at all possible, think for a second, how'd they end up like that? How did they end up like that? Clearly a horrible person. They have wronged me. They have crossed a line, whether it be moral, ethical, maybe even physical sometimes. This person has hurt, harmed, gotten in my way, shown no regard for the things that are important to me, has gone out of their way to make my life more difficult or more painful. And all that you can ask yourself to do, and the best thing you can ask yourself to do, is maybe for a second consider how they got there. It might be a story you never find out. But understand that a lot of the time, folks that are hideously awful in their behavior are just doing the best they can with the tools that they have. Doesn't mean you have to put up with their BS. Doesn't mean that you can't be firm. Doesn't mean you can't have your own boundaries. Doesn't mean you can't go, I don't need this in my life. I am done. Doesn't mean you can't go to the authorities. Doesn't mean you can't go to your boss. Doesn't mean you can't go to HR. But it will mitigate the feeling of outrage you have in yourself if you stop for a second and think, how did this person get like this? And they're just doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. Alrighty then. Funkhauser, how are you, and what is going on in the world? How's your Monday working out thus far? Did you have a good weekend?
Eyewitness News. In no way, shape, or form fair and certainly not balanced. And now, super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhauser.
Oh, man. It's hard to bring the fire after that.
It's really, yeah. I think it's good. I mean, it's tough to live up to what Shadow Stevens promises to deliver when he voices the stuff on our station, on our show. But overall, I think it's a good thing. The only thing is, when Shadow Stevens talks on our show, we start talking afterwards, and we both sound like we're about 8 years old.
Yeah, this just in the news.
So, how are you, and what is going on in the world?
I'm good. I did a little Sunday siesta to Santa Barbara, not the
really?
soap opera, the city. And it was pretty nice, except it was overcast all day till the end.
Doesn't your mom live in Santa Barbara? Isn't that like
she lives in Camarillo. That's close by, but
okay,
it's on the way. So, yeah, took the Canadians there, and we did some chopping. We got some close, and we ate some oysters on the pier, and did some bobbing and weaving.
Did you like the oysters?
Did I? It tasted like snot and sand, but sure.
So, no. Yeah.
I got all three of them down.
I've tried oysters once. I was like, oysters on the half shell, and people were like, oh, you got to do this. You got to do this. And I was like, ugh, I do not care for these. And I love steamed clams. Steamers, as they used to call them when I went on vacation in Maine. Steamers, steamed clams, freaking delicious. And I used to think that would apply to every other kind of shellfish. Mussels, ugh, no thank you.
Oh, and I love mussels.
I tried oysters. I was like, what the? It's like snot. It's disgusting. And someone was like, oh, you're not putting hot sauce on it. That you got to put either horseradish or hot sauce on it. I was like, okay. I was like, now it tastes like snot with horseradish on it. Like, no, this is not. How much you pay for these? I'd never. And they're like, it's an aphrodisiac, the way it slides down your throat. I was just like, maybe I just grew up with too many allergies. But it reminds me of lying at home in bed, paralyzed by hay fever and asthma with just more mucus in my head than I can ever get rid of. That's the mental image that I got from eating an oyster. Never understand it. So I'm glad to hear that you're on the same page. Wait, isn't Canadian Jane a vegan? Did she?
Yeah, no. I took Canadian Jane's brother also with us. And we're teaching him how to drive. And
well, hold on, how old is Canadian Jane's brother? He doesn't know how to drive.
He's 24.
Is
in
it like
human years?
In Canada, where they're from, is there a really good public transportation system? Because a lot of people I know growing up in New York and London just didn't drive at all because you take the bus or the subway or the tube, as we called it growing up in England. Did he just rely on public transportation in the past?
I guess. I don't know. Maybe he just never left the house.
How's it going? How's the going?
we've been trying on little streets and stuff back and forth. And yesterday was the first day I noticed that he's using 2 feet to operate this machine, where you should be using one. And I said,
it's an automatic.
1 foot on the gas, 1 foot on the brake. I said,
oh,
and I
laugh for a reason, but go on.
When we were going pretty quickly down the road there, I said, you can't do that. He's like, I've been doing that this whole time. I said, well, today's the day you're going to stop. You're going to use 1 foot. This is not a go-kart.
And how did he take that?
Oh, no, he did. He complained a lot at first. I don't understand. This is dumb. I said, yeah, but, I mean, don't you see how your knees are close together when you have both? Don't you think they shouldn't be that? He's like, I was wondering why they were that close. But, yeah, we survived. And he got really good at it. So I think he's at a point where he'll definitely pass the written. We thought he was going to pass the driving test until we found out yesterday he was using both feet. So maybe some more time.
So when I first came to America from England, I did exactly the same thing.
Yeah, everybody does.
1 foot. No. Then there's a reason for it. But I don't know if it applies to him, but there's a reason for it, and I'll tell you what it is.
Days like this when I feel untouchable, I try and make up for all the wrongs I did by living my life like a Cosby kid, jamming on the one like Theo and Stevie. I know it sounds crazy, but you gotta believe me when I feel like I just can't make it through. I try to think, what will Cliff tell Theo to do?
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again. Nobody rock a party better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again. Nobody rock a party better than me.
So, hit the news bed, Funkhauser. This isn't news, but we'll get into the news in a second. I understand how Canadian Jane's 24-year-old kid brother wound up driving with a foot on the gas and a foot on the brake. Had he ever driven in the past before?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think his first time is SoCal.
I grew up... I learned to drive stick in England. And you're just used to having your foot on 2 pedals. You kind of rest your left foot on the clutch, and the right does the right operates the gas and the brake. And when you go from, having a foot on two pedals to not having a foot on two pedals, that is a little interesting. And I remember as I'm driving for the first time in America in my teenage years with my tour manager for my band, I was like, hey, the record label rented us a car. I'm going to drive it. He was like, all right, cool. Yeah, you can drive. I've never seen. Okay, yeah, sure. I was like, well, I haven't driven much. I mean, mostly I took, subways and stuff. But yeah, I've had a driver's license for a couple of years now. And he was like, all right, cool. And he said to me, he's like, I've been a driver for a long time. I've driven long-distance trucks. I've driven tour buses. I've driven all sorts of stuff. And you haven't been driving for that long, right? And this is kind of one of your first times driving in America, correct? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, you don't mind if I give you some tips on your driving here and there, right? You won't take it the wrong way. And this was as we were pulling out of a gas station where I told him I would be driving. And I was like, no, you can give me some tips. That's sure. I'm totally open to that. He's like, okay, cool. First of all, you're on the wrong side of the road. I was like, oh. And then I move over. He's like, you just changed lanes. You're still on the wrong side of the road. I was like, oh. And then he was like, I got to say, it's a really dicey idea for you to have your feet on two pedals at the same time. You press both of them, the car gets confused or explodes or whatever the hell happens. And it's just not good. And so, I learned pretty quickly that you don't do that. But that's how that happened to me. I was just used to having my left foot on a pedal at all times because of the clutch. So if he had any previous driving experience in a car that was not an automatic, I'm going to guess that's how that happened. Yep, that's what I would guess. Does that mitigate his circumstances?
Well, he didn't. He's probably never been in a car that is manual. So he's been in a go-kart though. He's like, that's probably where I got it from. I'm like, you're supposed to be resting comfortably. Your foot rests comfortably on the brake, is it? No. Work that out. Easy.
All right, what's going on in the news?
Lots and lots of things. Lots and lots of uplifting stories this morning. Firstly, a Florida jury awarded Hulk Hogan $115 million in his sex tape lawsuit against Gawker.
Yeah. What did you say his most recent tweet was?
Oh, man, I'm not ready. He said something like, I told you I had one more body slam in me. HH. Here, I'll find it.
Okay. Yeah. Hulk Hogan, $115 million in his sex tape lawsuit against Gawker. I wonder if everyone who watched it online receives at least $500,000 for pain and suffering.
Told you I was going to slam another giant.
Oh, that was his... I wouldn't call Gawker a giant. Does Fox News or someone like that own Gawker?
I don't know.
But for a jury to award Hulk Hogan $115 million implies that Gawker might have $115 million. I don't know. Is it that big deal of a website? Wow. It'd be interesting if it was. Like I said, everyone who watched it online should receive $500,000 for pain and suffering. First time he's ever made money for something he wasn't pretending to do. All in all, good news for Hulk Hogan. Excellent news for the do-rag industry. Go on.
Justin Bieber and Marilyn Manson took a selfie together?
The Biebs and Manson. It was interesting. Did you see it?
No.
It was interesting to see that androgynous psychopath who's doing everything he can to destroy civilization posing with Marilyn Manson.
Is it too late now to shave my body?
If you're worried about a musical collaboration between the two of them, I think we're all right. I think stuff like that is expressly forbidden by the Geneva Convention. What else?
Orlando Bloom introduced Katy Perry to his mom.
Things are getting serious between Katy Perry's and Orlando's Bloom. From what I understand, Katy made a great impression. Like when she sleeps face down on memory foam. Thinking about it, there it is. All right, go on.
Well, there was all these billboards around town for Of Kings and Prophets here in Los Angeles, but ABC canceled it after only 2 episodes.
Wasn't that like a Bible show?
I don't know. I don't play Magic the Gathering, so I'm not into it.
No, I don't think it's the exact opposite of Magic the Gathering. I think it was a biblical thing.
I'm waiting for the Tyler Perry thing to come out. That's the one.
Yeah. Yep, biblical drama. Swift cancellation. They think it's going to keep going, though. Really, after being canceled, I understand if you make it through like 1 or 2 seasons and you're just clinging on, like hanging on by the skin of your teeth to enough ratings to keep the show going, and then you get like canceled and you go, we'll be picked up by some other station. That's what the Of Kings and Prophets people are saying. We will be picked up by some other station. Yeah.
We'll be back around Easter.
Yeah. Very, very good, Funkhauser. Very good. Doesn't bode well for the other biblical show in production, How I Crucified Your Savior. Go on.
Burt Reynolds is in the news. He says he regrets posing for nude pictures.
Yeah, back in the day.
Really? Come on.
Back in the day, he was in Cosmo, I guess, like some women's magazine, and he posed naked. Have you ever seen that picture?
No, I didn't know you could do that in Cosmo.
It's kind of a classic thing. Well, he didn't he didn't have the cash and prizes fully on display, but you did see some of his down there hair, I suppose you would call it. It being the 1970s or whatever, there was a lot of it, so it was hard to tell where the hair on his stomach ended and the rest of it began. Ew, unclean, unclean, unclean. But yeah. Burt Reynolds says he regrets posing for naked pictures. Anything you'd care to add, Chelsea Handler?
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
Ted Cruz wants Kasich to get out of the presidential race, says every day he's still in it is basically a favor to Donald Trump. It might be a favor to Donald Trump, according to Krauthammer. Krauthammer looks like the freaking Grinch. Have you ever noticed this? Like, next time you see a picture of him on Fox News or wherever the hell he pops up, just picture him green, and you will see the Dr. Seuss villain, whose heart was 2 sizes too small. Krauthammer is a guy that I find to be tremendously scary. Not necessarily in a, oh God, that's a frightening dude, but he is so unbelievably smart. Like, he knows everything about everything. And he knows everything about everything. And he's one of those guys that's not afraid to let you know that he knows everything about everything. 9 times out of 10, I see people trying to pull a Krauthammer, and I'm just like, you're an idiot. You're as smart as me, and that's not very smart, and you're acting like you're part of the Algonquin Round Table or a Nobel Prize laureate or a member of Mensa. You're a clothhead just like me. I can spot a phony. Get out of my face. When most people try and act like they're smarter than you on television or to your face, it's pretty easy to sniff suckers out. Krauthammer's not one of those. Krauthammer's a smart individual, and whether you like him or not, whether you agree with what he says or not, he's a very, very erudite individual that knows more than you most of the time. And he had something very interesting to say about why John Kasich was staying in the race and how it could be a tactical ploy to actually help Donald Trump. What's the angle? We'll get to it in just a little bit. Right now, though, let's continue with the events of today in our segment, My Witness News. Funkhauser, what else is going on in the world?
Well, Donald Trump has picked up endorsements from Aaron Carter, Scott Baio, and Flava Flav. What time is it?
Flava Flav? Oh, gosh. Wow. Huh. Flavor Flav. Scott Baio was the interesting one for me. Trump has gone on the record saying he loves the uneducated. And the educated. And now he can add the haven't been relevant in decades contingent to the to the equation. Scott Baio? That's still a thing? Wow. I would have thought that usually the only thing Scott Baio endorses is supersizing his customers when they place their McDonald's order. Drive-thru, please. Go on.
Mitt Romney.
Show in year.
Mitt Romney says he's voting for Ted Cruz.
Right.
Mitt Romney voting for Ted Cruz.
But only if he can't find a more satisfying way to flush his vote down the toilet. I don't think that's true. I think Ted Cruz is still in there with a shot. But there is an interesting thing going on between Cruz and Kasich at the moment, and we'll discuss it shortly. What else?
John Boehner. John Boehner compared Ted Cruz to Lucifer.
Yeah, and Justin Bieber was all like, "Why you got to bring me into this, dog?" See, in that little sketch, Justin Bieber was Satan. And I don't actually believe Justin Bieber is Satan. I think he was sent to Earth by Satan, by Canada, to ruin everything for all of us.
Canada,
he must be stopped. He's, yeah, he's satanic. I don't think he's actually Satan. Go on. What else?
Anonymous has leaked Donald Trump's Social Security number.
Yeah. Anonymous now. Yeah, at what point did Anonymous go from being something that was, like, scary and secretive to, like, they're just all over the place now? Like, I get that they're kind of like the morality police that went after Ashley Madison, like the affair website, like Have an Affair, Life is Short. That was the website that they took down, right? They leaked all the personal information of everybody that had signed up, and there were a shockingly high number of people on ashleymadison.com that were registered with .gov email addresses. That was an interesting one. But Anonymous feels like they're, I don't know. Somehow it just feels a little bit more personalized now. I don't know why. I guess it was when they started playing morality police. I get it when they went after ISIS. I get it when they go after crooked politicians. But when it was like, you people are having affairs, that's not right. We're going after you. I was just like, I feel as though it kind of waters down your message. But they're interesting, for sure. And they've leaked Donald Trump's Social Security number. FYI, if you use it to assume Trump's identity, avoid Mexico. Go on.
Oh, where's my thing? Oh, there he is.
I disavow, okay?
Okay. More news here. Bob, where'd my newspaper go? Oh, there it is. President Obama arrived in Cuba yesterday.
Yeah. Yep. I think he's going to be there for 3 days. Hopes to accomplish a lot. At the top of the list of things he hopes to accomplish, lowering his handicap and correcting his slice. Go on.
North Korea sentenced a U.S. student to 15 years of hard labor for stealing a propaganda sign.
Well, look at that. Look at the bright side. Never have to see Ben Affleck as Batman. A couple more pieces of news.
Domino's is now testing a robot that delivers pizza. That's cool.
I guess Marco Rubio will have a job after all this is done.
You act like he doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Couple more pieces of news.
A professor at the University of Kansas will be allowed to keep her job after saying the N-word in class.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering how that was going to land. Wow. Interesting. Do you remember the context in which she used it?
Is that where Dr. Laura went when she left radio? I was confused. No, I don't know the context, but it was probably out of a book, right?
Yeah, she's relieved. At the same time, even if they had fired her from her job, she had a new one waiting for her at Trump University. She used a racial slur in class last fall. She upset a bunch of graduate students who said she has a history of discriminatory behavior and needed to be fired. After a 4-month investigation, they decided that what she did not violate the school's non-discrimination and racial and ethnic harassment policies. She used the N-word during a discussion about how to talk to undergraduate students on college campuses about sensitive racial issues. Well, there we go. She skates on that one. I think Bottom line is, like, I really get, I get it. I understand the people that say, it's just a word. It's just a word. And by giving it this power, you're making it. I get it. I get it. I understand it. I 100% understand it. It is just a word. And you shouldn't give it the power it has. But until everybody decides it no longer has the power, if you're a white person, not even when you're singing along to rap songs, just, it's not, it's never going to be a good idea. Ever. Do we want to do it? Nah, screw it. Let's just talk about Ted Cruz. But to clear the palate, super quick. Did you get a bunch of stuff done this past weekend, just gone by, Funkhauser? Did you have a list of things that you had to do? Not really? See, I always go into my weekend with a list, and I tend to have a to-do list during the day. A buddy of mine that was in AA taught me about to-do lists. He said that as you cross each thing off of your to-do list, it really helps to build your self-esteem. And that was a lesson that I learned from someone in Alcoholics Anonymous that I kind of clutched to my heart. Never had a drinking problem, never attended an AA meeting, don't drink, and it wasn't necessarily relevant to my life on the surface of things, but writing down a list of crap that you got to do in a day, brushing your teeth, showering, all of the above. When you get to the end of the day and you have a long list of stuff that's crossed out, it actually makes you feel like you've done something with your life, and that can be a useful thing sometimes. So I'm a big fan of the to-do list. Here's comedian Dennis Regan talking about his.
I do a lot of stupid things. I realized this the other day. Whenever I'm around my house and I'm making that list of things to do, for some reason at the top of the page, I always write, things to do. I'm not sure why exactly. I guess it's so later that day I don't just stumble across that piece of paper and go, what the hell is all this? Pay the phone bill, go to the store. What are all these unrelated things doing on this one single piece of paper? This must be some sort of word association game or something. You ever write down real small stuff on your to-do list so you can feel like you're getting stuff done? Eat a bowl of cereal, watch the Andy Griffith Show, and take a nap. I am flying today. Look at all the stuff I've accomplished. I am Captain Accomplishment today. Sometimes I write down things I've already done just so I can cross them off. I put my shoes in the closet. Hooray for me.
It's true. You do get a little charge off of the things that you cross off of your to-do list. It's this little sort of like dopamine rush that you can get when you go, hey, I'm not a complete lump. I'm not a complete layabout. I put my shoes in the closet. Let's write it down and cross it off. Ooh, I feel even better. Ted Cruz said about Kasich, every day he stays in the race benefits Donald Trump. He was talking to CNN, and he congratulates Kasich for winning his home state, but he said it's now mathematically impossible for him to win the nomination. He said, so to actually defeat Donald Trump, there's only one campaign that has done so over and over again. I think any candidate, if you don't have a clear path to winning, it doesn't make any sense to stay in the race. And I would note, every day John Kasich stays in the race benefits Donald Trump. And a lot of people are saying that. And I think Krauthammer has a habit of saying things that we're thinking a lot of the time. And, well, he was talking about the canceled Fox debate. You know, the one we were supposed to be watching today. Trump pulled out, so Fox canceled it. Like, process schmocess. Whatever. It's not as much fun hearing Kasich defend the size of his junk on TV. That's not going to bring in the ratings and ad revenue that we'd hoped for, so we're just going to not do it. But Krauthammer was talking about this. He was talking about this debate where Trump pulled out because he's scared to debate Cruz, some people are saying, and Kasich followed along. Krauthammer said, the thing I don't understand is here's Kasich. In about 10 of the debates, he complained that he's getting ignored, not getting enough time, whining about it again and again. He and Carson. Now, here he is being offered 2 hours. 2 hours without the interruptions of Trump. Just him and Cruz. He can present his case, and he turns it down. I don't know what game he's playing. I think it might actually help to stop Trump if he stays in. because he can take away some delegates in the Northeast. But nonetheless, I have to think in the back of his mind, even though he denied it, I think he has the idea of being number 2 on a Trump ticket. And that may be what he wants. Interesting. And something to think about as we make our way into the week. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for being a part of our radio family. We'll be back tomorrow. Later.